different islands. We ate vegetables and fruits and things like that. We didn't eat burgers, hot dog. I didn't even know what a hot dog was. I didn't, you know. So coming here, I was like, oh, I have to be different. Because I look like that, so I should be like that. Wear my hair in those buns and stick something in it. I should. Yeah, I did that. I was like, listen, I'm them because I look like them.
A lot of the auditions and the roles that I was going for were the stereotypical same roles. And then me coming out here, you know, I'm still going on these auditions, but me identifying as a Afro-Latino is just too much for me.
My dad, when I was like really young, he sat me down, he made me watch this movie called Imitation of Life. My dad made me watch that movie because I didn't realize it until later, but he wanted me to know, like, just because you're light, like, you ain't better than the rest of us. Like, you're still black at the end of the day. You're gonna be treated differently.
And you ain't never gonna be a white woman.
But you're never gonna be white, exactly. You will be treated differently throughout your life, but you're black. You're still black, your parents black, your family black, like.
You just not yellow.
And you just yellow, exactly.
That's
like,
your favorite color, that's what it is, that's what it is.
Thank you everyone for being here today for this roundtable lunch, brunch. I would call this a brunch. This is a brunch of all sorts. We got about, 5 different countries on one plate? Yeah. It's beautiful. Because every one of us here today is from somewhere a part of the African diaspora. Yes, so we all come from different backgrounds geographically and culturally, which is dope. Like, how many times do you get together with a group of people to discuss your cultural backgrounds? Not that much, right?
No, not really.
That's why we are blessed to be here today, because at a glance we look the same, but we all have different stories to tell. And we're going to talk about it because we want to educate other people who may look at us and assume that we're all the same as well. So we'll get started. I'll start with myself. My name is Ashley Osborne. You can call me Ayo. I am coming to y'all from Middletown, Ohio.
Hey, Middletown, Ohio.
Hey.
Let's have a sip for that. Sip for that.
You know, 513 represented. But, you know, we all live here in Los Angeles, so just thought I'd add that little tidbit. That's where we're coming from today, Los Angeles, California. Okay. All here chasing the dream. We'll start. Who wants to go next?
Ladies.
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Uzumaka. I am from Hawthorne, California. I'm first generation Nigerian American.
No.
Yes.
We gonna get into that, okay? Yes.
Both my parents are Igbo. So I'm 100% Nigerian.
Yes.
That is a little tidbit for me.
And Nigerians are the most populated blacks.
Yes, we are. And some of the most educated too. Educated immigrants, yeah. Throw that out there.
I am Shakaya. Hello, everyone. I am from the U.S. Virgin Islands, so it's still American territory, but it is definitely different from the U.S. and the culture, the people, the place, everything. So it's good to let everyone be able to learn about my people and my culture, because not much people even know where it is. If anyone didn't know, the Virgin Islands is right next to Puerto Rico.
Beautiful place.
Yes, my girl, she visited.
Yes.
From St. John.
St. John. Mm-hmm. Oh, gotta go back soon.
Paradise.
Yes.
Well, I'm really shy, so my name is Elvira. Just kidding. My name's Elvira. I'm born and raised in St. Martin. However, my mother is from Haitian descent. She is half Haitian, but my father is Dutch. He's from the Dutch part of the island. St. Martin has 2 sides, the French side and the Dutch side.
What's your mom's other half, if you don't mind?
Cuban.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice snacks.
Spanish. Him speaking Spanish. He speaks all the languages. So in St. Martin, we have, like I said, we have two sides. We have French side and Dutch side. I'm from the Dutch side, and it's, I would say, of course, the most beautiful side. But also, I've visited Haiti, where my mother is from, so I connect on both levels. So I can't say, oh, I'm Haitian or I'm Dutch. No, ma'am. No, sir. I am Caribbean 100%. So that's why I'm crazy.
We're not crazy.
Okay.
We're not crazy.
Gotta spice it up a little bit.
A little bit.
So spice.
Lots of spice.
Myself?
Yeah.
All right. So my name is Rogelio. You can roll the R if you want. Yeah, Rogelio if you want. My family's from Costa Rica.
Yes, Tika.
I actually just moved to LA from New York, so a lot of my family's back in New York. That's pretty much it. That's where I'm from.
Yeah.
Costa Rica.
By way of New York.
That's right.
I mean, Costa Rica is a beautiful country.
Absolutely.
Same out there, all of that, all these places or whatever. Hi, my name is Seba.
Hey,
It's short
Seba.
for Sebastien. And because my name is Sebastien Charmant. And so you can just call me Seba. It just makes it easier, you know, everything and all of that. But my family's Haitian, so I'm 100% Latino. Hablo español, inglés y francés y criollo. So I'm pure Hispaniolan. So that just means that Hispaniola is the island that engulfs Dominican Republic and Haiti. It's in between Cuba and Puerto Rico. And so, when I say I'm 100% Hispaniola, I'm 100% Caribbean, I'm 100% Latin, I'm 100% Haitian. It is what it is. Because I feel like if you can communicate with the people from the island, you are 100%, you know what I mean? It's part of your culture. It's not taken away from those that doesn't. It just, that's who I am. And I was, born and raised in the States. I'm from Boston originally. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Next question we have is, there are some people, African Americans and people of color, who identify as black. What do you think of the term black, and where do you think it comes from? And do you identify as black, or do you prefer to describe yourself as a different ethnicity?
Yes. So are we discussing like black people as in like black Americans, or just like a general statement of just black?
I think that is like the kind of the answer of the question, because I feel like when you come to America,
You're automatically
that's when you're
labeled as
black.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you go other places, I feel like people identify more with their country, with their ethnicity. Yeah. So I personally think black is something that was created in America. Like once people came to America, you're white, you're black, you're the
It
whole
became about the color of the skin instead of like where you're
Exactly.
from and what your culture was. Yeah.
Exactly, because you just homogenized all this group of slaves and people that you shipped over from Africa. You didn't
And
care
nobody has time
what
to be
country.
like, okay, Ghanaian, Nigerian.
No, they threw all that away. They didn't want us to know who we are. So, do you identify as black, especially since we all live in America? How do you kind of address that when people say, "Oh, you're black"?
Well, when people say, I don't deny it, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where there's this concept here in the States where the moment you speak another language, it takes away from your blackness or your identity and whatnot. And that's where I'm like, well, first of all, I don't feel the need to justify my blackness. Does that make sense? Like you don't have to prove that you're black to somebody because you speak French or Creole or whatever. Like it's just because that's something that's just off of ignorance. You know what I mean? And what happens is, like, first of all, like, my bloodline is from the first Black Republic in Latin America in the world, from free slaves. What's so profound about the Haitian culture is that's our staple within the Black community. Is because Our independence came in 1804. So while everybody else was being 400 years a slave, we were only enslaved for about 13 years.
Right.
And the way I see it is, you know, they brought us Africans to the island, had to speak French, and the Haitians banded together to create Creole to be able to communicate with one another to create an uprising. Where the white folks couldn't understand this black language.
Successful.
Right, it is.
Right. Because what it is it's a black Creole is a black language.
It's like a broken French.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say
that.
broken because there really isn't nothing broken about the way we communicate.
I mean, I get what you mean by broken.
I mean, it does come from French because we share the numericals,
Right.
the alphabets,
Right.
and it takes from different Latin words, like Spanish, African words, because you have to understand when the Africans also came here, they pulled them from different countries in West Africa. So that's just my take on that. You know what I mean?
Well, even though I'm from the Virgin Islands, my mom is actually Irish. She's from the United States. She moved to the Virgin Islands when she was 21, right after she graduated from college. And she's been living there for 35 years now, so she's lived in the Virgin Islands longer than she lived in the U.S. But me, my sister, my brothers, we all grew up there, but in the Virgin Islands, just like in the States, when I came to the U.S., they told me, like, you're black. Mind you, in the Virgin Islands, I was never once told I was black because I guess maybe because the culture is so, like, black is the main population. It's like you can tell when someone isn't fully black. So I was always told, you're mixed, your mother's white, and, that's how I grew up. That's what I was. I'm not going to cut off one side of me, she's my mother, she raised me. So it was always known, these people are mixed, some people are black, then we have Frenchies, people from St. Martin, St. Bart. So when I came to America, people were like, yeah, you're black, and I was like, oh, well, my mom's white, like, I'm mixed. Right. And they were like, no, you're still black. That doesn't mean
One drop
anything.
rule.
And I was like, but in the Virgin Islands, black people are like, you are mixed, like,
Right.
you're Irish and you're Caribbean. But it wasn't like they were ever going to tell me, like, you're just black. But when I came up here, they're like, no, you're black. And I was like, but my mom's white. And they were like, so you're still black. And so they were just like, no, you're black. And so I never ever called myself like black because I was mixed, that's just what it was. And in the islands, you can tell someone's black, someone's mixed, someone's from. We didn't have this black or white, it's like, oh, that person's white, but they're not calling themselves white. They're like, I'm Frenchy, I'm from St. Bart's. So it was more like how you said, ethnicity mattered versus like color,
Anybody else?
Yes. So for me, I identify as black. There's no hesitation.
Yeah.
Very proud. But growing up, I went to school in Redondo Beach, which is about 10 to 15 minutes away from Hawthorne. So I went to school with a lot of white kids. So being first generation Nigerian American, I always felt like I had to dilute my blackness to be able to assimilate with my white counterparts. And then when I would interact with other blacks, whether that be in my neighborhood or when I went to middle school and I had more interaction with more black people, they would, how do I want to put it? They would tell me that I wasn't black because I was African. And as a kid, it doesn't make sense, right? As an adult now, it's just like, what's your logic? What do you mean she's not black when she looks just like you? I was told I wasn't black because of the way I speak, the way I carry myself. Told I was whitewashed, which is fine. It hurt as a kid. I'm not gonna lie, but that's what I was told. So I always had this struggle between diluting myself with my white counterparts so that my blackness wasn't noticed, and then with my Black American friends, I always felt that I had to do more. I always had to go above and beyond. I had to make sure that I didn't bring the Nigerian with me. So like once I left home, I left that at home.
I really, feel what you were saying because I wasn't even born here in the States. So when I came here, I didn't even speak any English. I definitely identify as black because realistically, and this is what it is, I'm a black woman, and when other people look at me, they're like, oh, she's black, because I am. However, I am Caribbean. That's what I identify as. When I apply for a job, when I apply for anything, I'm going to check black because that's what I am. However, I am still Caribbean. Now, being from a different island, coming to this country, not speaking any English, I did exactly what you did. I wasn't allowed to watch TV Monday to Thursday. So Friday through Sunday, guess what I was doing? MTV, and I'm just trying to dance like them, speak like them, because I didn't know, you know, the terms, the slang. I didn't know anything. But I definitely just really feel how you were growing up, because that's how I was when I was growing up. I didn't know, you know, certain snacks. I didn't know anything because I'm from a different island. We ate vegetables and fruits and things like that. We didn't eat burgers, hot dog. I didn't even know what the hot dog was. I didn't, you know. So coming here, I was like, oh, I have to be like them. I have to be, because I look like them. So I should be like them. I should wear my hair in those buns and stick something in it. I should. Yeah, I did that. I was like, listen, I'm them because I look like them.
This is specifically for Afro-Latino. Can you explain, the best person on this table, multiple people actually on this table, can explain the meaning of African Latino, and then are Afro-Latinos viewed differently in Latino culture?
It's funny because that's been the biggest issue that I've been dealing with, and it still is. As an Afro-Latino, I guess many people define that term differently. If you really want to do your research, Afro-Latino, there have been Africans who were slaves who were taken into these Latino countries. And so right then you might define them as Afro-Latino. And then you have people who parents, one side is Latino, and then the other side is either European or they're African, and so you have, like you said, all these different diasporas, and so you might define that as Afro-Latino. For myself, I guess I'm pretty much along that line. I have my family, my parents are from Costa Rica, but then their parents, one side is from Jamaica, the other side is from, I believe, from Africa. Either Africa, yes, yeah. My issue with that, however, is that I'm too black to be Latino. I'm too black to be considered Costa Rican. And so that was it's funny that you're going back to your childhood. Me growing up, I was called African. I wasn't called black, I was called African. And if I was called black, I was called black because of my skin color. And so if I was like, oh, my name is Rogelio, they're like, why is your name Rogelio? Like, oh, my family's from Costa Rica.
How?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense.
This is not possible. How? And I think that's, unfortunately, it's just it's very ignorant.
Yes.
It's very ignorant to not understand that there are different skin tones in these Latino countries. Another thing that I'm dealing with is that not every Latin country would accept me as Costa Rican. A lot of people from DR would be disgusted with me. I'm just way too dark skinned to identify as a Latino. I've had grandparents curse me out because I had, their granddaughter or their grandson was my friend, or I consider my friend. And they quickly, oh, he's Haitian, he's this, he's that.
Wow.
And I'm like,
no, I'm not.
I'm just me.
I mean, I think with Black and Latin, it's just, Afro-Latino is just a word that's just gotten hot right now. You know what I mean? Like, because growing up, you were just Latin. Afro-Latino is just a black person from a Latin American country. It's not that, you know what I mean? Certain ideas is not that complicated. It's just you're a Latin, you're just a black guy, you speak Spanish, you're a black guy from a Latin American country. First of all, like, the music That's salsa. But them white Latin motherfuckers didn't create all that. They came, that originated in Sierra Leone. First, you know what I mean? So it ain't all that conga, all of that bomba, salsa, merengue. These are African sounds.
Absolutely.
And we're rooted in flavor.
Right.
So and that's just what it is.
I feel personally that the term black just comes from a racial classification of people that, of course, are the opposite of white. It's just a physical representation of otherness to me, especially when you think about other races of people who aren't primarily African American or considerably black. Indians, for example. I do understand that in some parts of India, darker complected Indians are also classified as black as well. So for me, it's just a racial or a more of a physical representation of people altogether.
Well, I know in South Africa, colored is used, and I believe in India, don't misquote me, but I think similar terminology for people of color. Now, whites or Europeans might have had other terminology. So I know that all people don't embrace black necessarily. All people of African descent don't embrace black. I know it best as an American phenomenon to try to achieve some sort of unification.
So I've had a student from Nigeria in my public speaking class, and one of the speeches she gave was why we shouldn't call her black, why we should call her Nigerian, and that's because there's a power that she upholds being a Nigerian woman, and she wasn't born in the States, so it's just a respect thing. I think just being able to understand what people want to be identified with is just a form of respect.
There are a lot of people who acknowledge and identify with their African heritage. At the same time, they can identify with their Latino cultural practices. And so on the census form or employment form where it says, racist is Hispanic, or it'll say, white non-Hispanic or black non-Hispanic. So they're kind of getting it now. Oh, you can be, a white Hispanic person, or you can be an Afro Hispanic person.
Growing up with a father that's black and he speaks Spanish, and a mother that is pretty much Latin American and she doesn't really speak Spanish at all, it's just really confusing, because then how do I identify myself? I didn't hear the term until 2009 when I think it was Rosario Dawson or Zoe Saldana that started saying, look, I'm Afro-Latina. And I was just like, what does that even mean? Then I realized that they both spoke Spanish, and I realized that, one is from, I think, Dominican Republic, and I don't really remember where the other one's from, but those are predominantly Spanish-speaking countries that actually has predominantly black-bodied individuals. So why not consider yourself Afro-Latino? Why not create that merge of cultures as well as racial classifications?
And maybe it's a uniquely United States of America idea that we are the only ancestors of enslaved people. No, go anywhere. Brazil, Haiti, Jamaica, we're everywhere. Literally, we are everywhere. And I just think once we really understand that, there won't be these little, or the labels won't irk us so much,
Like, I could throw Belize out there because there are black bodies that do speak Spanish, heavily influenced by a different culture. Honduras, Panama, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Costa Rica, a lot of places that are in Central America, as well as a part of the Caribbean. I feel is a part of that community, the Afro-Latino community.
Colorism is rarely discussed on the topic of racism. So we want to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Have you ever felt that your skin tone was an advantage or a disadvantage for you? Whether it's been at like school, in your career, in your family even?
In Africa, bleaching creams are a $1 billion market. Where you see like ad campaigns. I've seen it on Twitter where they've like been trending and people like are upset with like Nivea, like how dare you post it?
Yeah.
Just like, well, the reason they can post these ads in Africa and all these other places throughout, you know, the Eastern world is because there's a market for it. You know, so it's still prevalent. Like I've seen aunts use it on their skin. You can tell that they're using it because, you know, just like the way their skin tone looks, you just know that bleaching's been done. But yeah, like I just.
You know, I have something to say about that because I visited Dominican Republic for the first time, I think about 2 years ago, with a friend of mine who is a bit darker than I, and we were at a resort having a great time, and literally you could tell the difference in treatment. How I was like a queen. I was like, and I got whatever I needed. But when it was time to serve her or do anything, they were just, and it was because she was darker. And they made it so obvious that we had to say something because it was just disgusting. How dare you? We in DR. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? So I definitely have seen that. I've witnessed it. I've experienced it, even with my family. You know, it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I don't like to say this, but this is the reality. I could feel the difference in treatment, how I was getting treated compared to a few of my family members who were a bit darker. As a kid, you are smart. You can feel things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got a story about that.
So I could feel my aunts playing in my hair and dolling me up and doing things like that. And just my cousins are over there. What about them? No, they're fine. Well, you know what I mean? I've been a witness to that, and I'm like, that's just not okay.
And how long were you there for in DR?
Oh, in DR for about a week and a half.
So did she feel? Did your friend, cousin, or whatever?
She was a friend of mine. Yeah.
Was she feeling it throughout? Like
when we got to the resort, when we got to the airport, even. They were carrying my bags. She was lugging so many things. She's like, well, what's going on, you know? It was just really evident because, and she's of a different Caribbean culture. She's Jamaican. And she has a thick Jamaican accent. So they couldn't even understand her. Meanwhile, I'm throwing the little Spanish I know, mira ahora, you know, doing what I can do, you know what I mean? But it was really obvious how they're like, no. We won't want to help her too much. You will help you. You know what I mean?
Well, I will say, growing up in America, my family, I'll tell you about my family. I am the lightest person in my immediate family. And from when I was a kid, I think the colorism had been impressed on me because there was a bit of, and I think my parents recognized it because I was like closest passing for white, which was like, you know, the superior in America. And I would do little things like watch TV. So I did watch TV. I like watched media, movies, television, all that when I was a kid. So I would like see it and I would do little things to like try to make myself more European. Like I would watch TV and for some reason I would go and get a shirt or something, put the head of the shirt on my head, pretend like it was my hair. I would take a comb and try and curl my nappy, kinky ass hair with a comb. trying to like curl it, got the comb stuck. They had to cut it out my hair, like just doing stuff to be that way. And my dad, when I was like really young, he sat me down. He made me watch this movie called Imitation of Life. It's a girl, she's raised by a black woman. No, her mom is a black woman, exactly. So her daughter was light, but her mom was dark skinned. And as she got older, she tried to like deny her mom because she was darker, and they were both like aspiring actresses, the daughter and the white daughter. And it was just like a movie, and my dad made me watch that movie because I didn't realize it until later, but he wanted me to know, like, just because you're light, like, you ain't better than the rest of us. Like, you're still black at the end of the day.
And you ain't never gonna be a white woman.
But you're never gonna be white. Exactly. You will be treated differently throughout your life, but you're black. Right. You're still black. Your parents black. Your family black. Like,
she just high yellow.
And you just yellow, exactly.
That's
like,
your favorite color. That's what it is. That's what it's gonna be.
But literally, exactly. And I was like, damn, it's crazy that I was barely in grade school at the time. And it's just crazy how I had to get taught that at such a young age because of like just what's around me and in American culture and how people treated me and how I started acting.
Right, you're a child.
Exactly. I'm just going by exactly. Right. So yeah, colorism. And do you feel like colorism is worse among black people? Do you feel like, or it's worse coming from outside cultures? Because I would say honestly, it's probably worse on both ends. I don't think it's better on one side than the other because that whole like for a while the Twitter like team light skin, team dark skin, like trash. It's so trash. And like I always feel like it is a responsibility of some sort for lighter skinned people to identify our privilege and speak out against it when we notice it. Like Amanda Stenberg, she just did that, passing up the role in Black Panther.
And
like
I noticed dark skinned women in particular were upset with her for answering the question. Just like she was asked and it was answered. Right. And as an activist, as a supporter, she's not only doing, speaking about these issues, but she's actually doing actual work.
Right.
Exactly. And by her speaking up and saying like, yeah, this happened, maybe if the Zoe Zaldanas of the world, more people will stop and reevaluate a role and be like, dark skinned woman.
Nina Simone.
I don't fit the bill. I don't fit the bill. Maybe this is a role that I shouldn't be doing.
Or, give it to another person.
Or like, you know what? So-and-so is probably a better fit for this role.
Just as a portrayal, because yes, your talent matters, I feel like, but the picture, exactly, the image.
You want like the kids watching these movies to be able to relate to it, to feel like, yes, Nina Simone is a black African American that I can be proud of, not like Nina Simone was
she's really light-skinned portrayed in this movie.
Yeah, and it's like, you should just make it real.
Yeah, and if you have to sit in a makeup chair for 2 hours and they have to put a prosthetic nose on you, maybe this no shade,
anyway, we know
from both sides, we would say
from both sides. Okay, do you feel like there's a lack of representation in media in Hollywood of people of color?
I mean,
the different types.
It's getting better.
Different
types.
Yeah,
like, I would love to see, like, as someone who's trying to get into acting and be an actress, I definitely am always nervous, like, that my accent is going to be a problem, and it's like, why wouldn't they want a character who has an accent so that people from the Virgin Islands can be like, oh my gosh, my people are on this TV screen, this is what I want to do. I never saw like anyone with the accent ever really on TV, so I didn't have that.
Rihanna.
Rihanna finally, and I'm like, yes, even though, she's music, it's not really, in film, and when she is in film, I feel like they're trying to stifle her accent anyways, but it's like, I mean, there's a few British shows where I'll see like Jamaicans and stuff, and there is, some culture, some black cultures are definitely portrayed, but just like, I mean, the Virgin Islands is so small, but like, to me, we're not that small. Like, there's still, 70,000 people down there who would love to see, a few island people on the screen and not portrayed as a black American. Because we have a bunch of, there's a bunch of actresses, and the girl from I think it's like Empire. She's from like the Cayman Islands or something.
Soraya?
And like she's the light
I
skin
stopped
one. She has like short hair. Anyways, but she has a strong accent, and I would have never known she was from the Cayman Islands until she was like on Ellen or something. She was on some show, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I actually have a strong accent." And they're like, "Okay, let's hear it." And so she has to hide it all the time, sounding like she's just this person from America that's black, and it's like, so we can have a few little island rolls thrown in there, you know, like. I feel like every time I come to America too, not just black people, white people, they're always like, "Ooh, you're from the island. That's so cool. Like, what? Tell me more." I'm like, "How about you watch some more? How about you
Speak
you know, right?" I'm like, you always want us to show ourselves, but we're not getting to show ourselves. You know, like we definitely need a bigger platform. So that is my goal to one day, you know, have my people get some inspiration.
And I mean, I find that funny because I was actually going to mention that about representation. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of white folk, have a problem understanding that representation matters. Like representation is a thing. I'm also
They've never had to worry about that.
Right, and I'm also an actor, and so like I realized that a lot of the auditions that I'm going for, especially when I was in New York, a lot of the auditions and the roles that I was going for were the stereotypical same roles. And then me coming out here, you know, I'm still going on these auditions, but me identifying as a Afro-Latino is just too much for them to handle. I need to use
which one are you?
Right.
Charlemagne.
Not even, are you African? Are you Latino? Are you black? Are you Spanish?
You're like, what?
Relax.
It can be all of it.
Right, but see that's too much. Like the way I look, they will not want to
Accept
ask
the,
me.
they probably don't even accept the Latino part.
No, they won't. They won't. They need someone
You're
else.
like, how are we gonna sell
fits
this on
that.
TV?
You know, there are actors though who can act with their native tongue, with their accents. I have a little accent, and when I go on auditions, I work on my tongue, so I try to speak nice and slow. If I can enunciate, do everything perfectly. No, but I can't even do it. When I get into the role, I'm like, oh shit. Because I go back to it does. However, sometimes they want you to keep it. Most of the time, they don't. But I'm like, well, why can't I keep it? Because the woman who's on the show Modern Family, she's making millions and she has her accent.
Sophia,
so what about me?
People hardly even understand what she's saying.
Ever.
Bank.
Yeah, so I think, you know, there's a big gap, and I hate that it's like that for us. But like you said, with Black Panther, Wrinkle in Time, it's getting better.
It is.
I do think it's getting better.
I feel like colorism has a lot to do with some form of dominant control, especially now within our own community. Because, for instance, I had a student that checked me and told me, "Professor, you are light skinned. You hold some form of privilege even though you are black." And for the past 2 years, it's stuck with me. So every time someone says something like, your experience is not my experience, coming from someone else that's in the black community, I really have to like mull on that.
Colorism within the group, within our group, we just call it colorism. But racism is really colorism. It's colorism that expresses itself in our social structures. So, so I think it's equal. And I think that we need to rethink our own colorism toward each other.
There is some form of privilege, which is why I've come with the understanding that it really is just like this dominant control that's not only is it socially constructed through history, where you did see lighter complected slaves in the house, dressed better, eating better, being treated better. Slavery is slavery, but at the same time, they weren't in the heat. They weren't being whipped as often. They weren't being starved as often. But the dynamic did start in history. You have lighter complected individuals, and you have darker complected individuals that are being treated in a certain fashion.
There is part of the issue that has to do with aspiring toward the superior, aspiring toward the people with power. But that's just, if you take a bird's eye view, that's this much of history. And there's so much that came before it that is not that.
Bleaching your skin is just a representation of you identifying yourself as something that's not beautiful. And the only reason I come to that conclusion, although my mother, she isn't black, I grew up watching my mom using skin lightening creams on her freckles because it's something she didn't see or view as being beautiful. So now, you know, she's 63 years old. She doesn't have any freckles. But growing up, I remember my mom having dark complected freckles on her face. It's the same thing when you go into West African countries and a lot of these women and men are bleaching their skin. It's just a representation of something that they don't see as being beautiful.
This whole idea of, skin brighteners, you know, the linguistics, the language is advertiser friendly. So, you know, hydroquinone is a bleach, you know, and so if you put it in, I remember there were products like Artra, Ambi, don't sue me, no. No. But there were products when I was growing up, and you know, you would see that hydroquinone, and then when I learned what it was, I was like, why would you want to put that on your skin? That's not. So, we're just in that flow of the pendulum right now, where, light skin is preferred. But like I said, there was a time in history when, particularly in Africa, it's, you know, black skin is superior, or that's what was thought.
I feel that that's how blackness is represented now. We get the leftover scripts, the leftover roles of movies that don't necessarily represent greatness. So you have Black Panther. What more can I say? No, honestly, like what more can I say about the execution of that film? It's black excellence.
In Black Panther, you saw that criticism is unfounded, because yes, you could see the research that was done. Matter of fact, you know, Ruth Carter talks about traveling to various parts of the continent and looking at design, looking at textiles, looking at jewelry, and so you could see all of that in the film. And the mythology of how Wakanda came to be, there were a number of different African tribes that came together and formed that community. And so that's why you saw different cultures, different African cultures represented in the film. And also the actors themselves were from various parts of the diaspora.
Everything was very subtle, everything was very believable, everything just felt natural and felt right. And I think that's what we were missing before, just like that righteousness of feeling positively represented in the Black community.
So what's a misconception that people have about your ethnicity or your culture?
Being Nigerian, that we're thieves. You guys have probably heard of scam of like a Nigerian prince,
right?
Need to wire money, and you know that was scam artists. That's a big misconception that I've seen played out on TV, specifically Blackish, and that is the reason why I don't watch Blackish anymore. Is because they made that joke. Yeah, it was like it was a jab, and they kind of moved on to whatever the episode was, and people can say I'm sensitive about, you know.
And you have every right to be sensitive.
And it's just like, we're Africans in like the continent were looked upon as savages, right? And so for this stereotype to continually be played out as if we're the only, you know, people that play scams on each other when America's the biggest scam of them all. But it to be portrayed on TV, especially by like an all-black cast, black writers, it was hurtful. So
it be your own people.
So it was just like there was something else. You could have joked about something else. You could have joked about our accents, or, you know, the way we eat our chicken, or you know, Nigerians will clean up.
A bone. Breaking the marrow. Suck that shit out. Yes. My roommate was Nigerian.
Cartilage.
She ate the shit. I took a picture. You too? I was impressed.
Everything from a chicken. But you see how much content you got out of that, as opposed to that Nigerians are thieves.
I got to do that. Yeah.
So that's one misconception that like I won't get over, or I think it's funny.
That's crazy. I would definitely say, being from the islands, when I first came out here to UCLA, the thing that people could not stop asking me was how I applied to UCLA. They're like, how did you get here? They didn't think we had like Wi-Fi or anything. They didn't think, you know, they're just like, you guys are just living. Yeah, they're like, so you have a phone? I'm like, yes, I have a phone. I have a computer. I have all this stuff. So people just think like we're some, you know, little savages, people living on the beach, just fucking using sand as our soap. I'm like, that's what I question. Do you use the sand?
Sand is
for
good
what?
for, by the way.
I'm like, but I ain't about to use that as my soap. And then like, you guys will wear the coconuts as a bra. I'm like, no, we don't wear coconuts as a bra. Like, we will drink the coconut water and, you know, eat the coconut jelly, but that's it. We're not making a fucking bra out of it. So definitely misconceptions are always people just acting like island people are savages when we are literally U.S. territory. So we're citizens.
We have the same thing.
We are. I'm like, you guys don't. We don't need a green card or anything. Like we watch the same movies as you guys. You know, it might get there two years later or something. You know, we get stuff a little bit late, but yeah. So definitely people just acting like
old white men know. Cause they be on there buying all the houses and land,
loving it,
retiring, chilling. Okay, yes, they know. Don't act ignorant.
Definitely.
I think that misconceptions about me, you may look at me and think one thing, of course, but I'm very like a nice person. They say black women are like really aggressive. I wouldn't say I'm aggressive at all, just because we may want to have like a resting bitch face, because like we go through a lot of stuff every day. Like we gotta fight the haters, the oppression. Like I can't walk around smiling all the time.
And it kind of goes into the stereotypes as well. Me being black, I'm a fighter, or
aggressive.
Right, or I'm very athletic. You must play basketball.
Okay. Well, actually, I like to read books.
Right. That's another thing. Education was a big thing for me. Oh, UCLA. Like, you guys UCLA? Yeah. Grad school? Yeah.
Med school? Law school?
That's a
what?
thing.
Really?
When I say also going into black, you got nappy hair.
Okay.
Okay. And I was like, I'm Afro-Latino. Oh, you Spanish. You got good hair. I want to have your babies.
Oh! Real quick. Once you call them Latina, they love it. They're like, yeah. They're like, it doesn't matter.
What?
You got that good hair. She gonna come out with baby hairs, waves, waves on slim, so they hate on him.
Oh, I got the Jordans. I got all the Jordans. What? Come on now.
I want everyone go around.
Oh yeah.
Say what dish you brought, where it came from. Is this what you grew up eating? And are they specific to a holiday? Just tell us more about the dish that you brought.
I mean, let's see who has the most folk.
You want to start?
Yeah, I can start. So it's not on my plate, but jollof
Jollof rice.
Yeah, so it's an, I want to say it's a West African staple. It didn't originate in Nigeria. I believe it's by the way of Zimbabwe, if I'm correct. Don't quote me on that, but Nigerians make it the best. Don't let a Ghanaian, they're liars. Do not let them tell you that they make it better than us, because that is a lie. That is a bold-faced lie. Jollof is something that you have every day, Monday through Sunday. At a wedding. Yeah, rice every day. I know certain cultures or certain people aren't able to break down rice because it's not a staple. But rice is a staple in most African cultures. So you have it at wedding, funeral, birthday, any activity, any event that you're having. I bet you jollof is at that event.
Does it take long to prepare?
No, it doesn't. So the way my mom in particular, so I'll speak on her. So the base or the foundation of the jollof, so like the tomatoes and the bell pepper or whatever you want to put in it, the water-based product is so she'll blend it up, then she'll boil it so that the water is exactly, and then she'll put it in a container and then store it for later. If she's not cooking jollof right then and there. So when she's ready to do it, she already has it, throws it in there, throws the rice, spices, boom, 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 so that it's no problem.
Dope.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a little piece left. This is called a pate, which is very similar to empanada, or as they have it in Nigeria, meat pies. And I mean, someone said it kind of looks like a calzone, but basically what it is it's a dough that you have to make, and it has sugar, salt. It kind of has a sweet taste to it, and then you have to fry it. You put it a filling inside, and the ones I brought have shrimp, curry shrimp, and chicken. And I would say the most eaten ones in the Virgin Islands would be saltfish and beef. I don't think I can get saltfish up here, so I didn't make it, but those are the two flavors that people usually eat more, and chicken as well. So they're used all the time. Like once I get off the plane, there's this little truck right by the airport. I'm like, stop here now, please. These pates are so good. They will be sold out by like 11 a.m., 12 p.m. in the afternoon. Like people come early, you can have it for breakfast. We usually have like a pate with bush tea, which is like lemongrass, ginger, mint, like all these stuff mixed up. It's really good. But I would say if tourists come, the time they're most likely going to get them is at Carnival for us, which is, parades, juve, costumes, the best time of year. For us, it's in April, so people always have like food stands with conch pate. That's like another big one. Conch is, it's like a seafood that's in a shell, like the big pretty shells, and people really like conch pates as well. So good. Best place ever. VIP for life.
So what I brought was it's called gallo pinto.
Yes.
It's just
This right here.
pretty much
Eat it for breakfast every day.
You can eat it for breakfast. You can eat it for lunch. You can eat it for dinner. It's basically just another way of making rice and beans. But there's a lot of other different spices. People often eat it with eggs, or you can eat it with a tortilla. But yeah, I mean, it tastes delicious to me. I eat it all day.
Yeah, so what I brought here is just ginger rice, something simple.
Simple and delicious.
Yeah. Just ginger rice.
And then lemongrass chicken. Haitian food is like spicy. It's just naturally spicy, and you season it up with all these spices, so it's really delicious and whatnot.
I brought cornbread from Sprouts. I would have made it, but I was pressed for time, of course, the American way. And I bought it from the store.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
It was good. It was really
Buttery, just like we like it. A little sweet.
If you're nice and thick.
Nice and thick. Eat your cornbread.
It was a delightful meal.
It was. I got 5 countries.
All in one
There you
case.
go.
Yes.
So cheers to
Cheers.
To our Latino African